Hello everyone, this is part 6 of What If Naruto Was Saved, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. A boy and two girls are on a man-made platform high in the sky, sleeping from the events last night. Unnoticed, three other people land on the platform, and start walking towards them, very carefully making almost no noise. The other team consisted of a guy with pineapple-shaped hair, a fat kid. That is surprising that he can even stand on the platform, and a slim girl with blonde hair. They were hoping for an easy steal. But as they get close they hear. It's not very nice to attack a sleeping enemy, and the sleeping male's shot up, opening his eyes. Guess it's lucky you make too much noise, he added, looking at the people in front of him. Troublesome, Shikamaru says, quickly doing a few hand seals. His shadow extends and Naruto is caught in it. Hurry, get the scroll so we can get out of here, Ino. Interesting jutsu you got there, Hinata voice says behind them. I wonder if you can outdo Naruto-kun's will though. She adds, figuring out his attack in an instant. Hinata's laying down form changes into mud. Nope, I guess he can't, Naruto responds, walking around just to show he wasn't under the spell. I wonder what else they have, Haku says, still laying down. What the hell? Naruto says, I think we should have gotten up, he adds, looking down at his form, and then at his teammates, who both rush to grab their clothes. Yeah, that would have made our lives better, Shikamaru says, turning around. He starts to walk away. Hey, where the hell do you think you going? Ino says, still wanting the scrolls which they have, and not trying to sense their power. It would be too troublesome to fight them, he answers, still walking away. Besides, we can't win. This set Ino off. She proceeded to smack her teammate. Stop being such a coward. Ino yells like there's no tomorrow. Naruto, Hinata, and Haku start to laugh. I'd hate to be on your team, Naruto says, walking over to his clothes, not really caring what they saw. Soon they were all dressed and standing on the original branch. If you don't mind, would you go somewhere else? Hinata asks kindly, wanting to release the jutsu. Well, I do mind, Ino says. She decides if her teammates were going to be cowards, then she'd start it. They'd have to follow her after, right? That's too bad, Hinata says. She bring up her hand in a seal and mutters, release. The platform and its supports change into vines and all recede into the ground tree, making Ino and her team fall. What the hell? Ino says, falling to her death, only to be caught by Haku. Her entire team was saved by Naruto's and then set down, before they started to walk away. Wait, Shikamaru says, you aren't going to take our scroll? He asks. He receives no answer. They just continue to walk. Shrugging, he turns around and walks with his team. Well, that was boring, Naruto says, sighing heavily. He was hoping for a decent fight. Guess that's too much to ask. They're rookies, Haku says. They obviously weren't going to be any challenge, he adds, just hoping the exam would be over soon. They weren't paying attention and ran into a guy in a green spandex suit and a bowl C. When he turned around, they realized he was one of the people on Neji's team. Where's the rest of your team? Hinata asks, looking at him suspiciously. Ah, well, you see, Neji said to scout out the area. Lee says enthusiastically, and since I'm the fastest, I was chosen. He adds even more happily this time. Well, I say I take your scroll from you then, Naruto says, smiling pleasantly. That's impossible, for I do not have the scroll, Lee says, starting to get serious. If you can beat me, you can have the scroll, Neji says, walking to Lee with a confident smirk. Very well, Hinata says, charging at him, which surprised Neji. He was talking to Naruto. Hinata throws an arm out, with an open palm, which only increases Neji's surprise when he blocks her Yuuken with his. How do you know Yuuken? He questions. Hinata drops the genjutsu and activates her bloodline. She's Hyuga. Hinata throws out another arm. Neji pairs with two fingers, but misses as her arm disappears. A quick low kick makes Neji jump away, and then Hinata hits his right shoulder with a chakra-enhanced hit, aka Yuuken. He plummets towards the earth. Because I am Hyuga, Hinata, true heiress of the Hyuga clan, she responds to his almost forgotten question. He stands up, with little effort, and faces Hinata. Hinata was K, 8 years ago, Neji says. He charges towards her ready to K, his hand is S away, and all of his tenketsu in that hand are sealed. Hinata then repeatedly strikes Neji's tenketsu, rendering him unconscious. Was that really necessary, Hinata-chan? Naruto asks, a little concerned that she was going too far. What power? Lee says. He puts his hand into Neji's pouch and pulls out a scroll. I hope I can fight you sometime too, he says, honoring Neji's proposition. Good. For a moment I thought we'd have to beat you senseless too, Haku says, smiling happily, making Naruto and Hinata smile too. True smiles. Maybe we'll see you in the next part. They don't wait for her answer. They take off to the tower, faster than even Lee could see. Luckily it had been the scroll they needed, and so they had the rest of the 5 days, which is about 3.5 now, to do what they wanted. As they entered the corresponding door on the tower, they see scroll unrolled on the wall and 2 tables on either side of the room. Without hesitation they placed 1 scroll on each table and unrolled it. A puff of smoke appeared throughout the room, and when it cleared, Hachibi was standing in the middle of the room. Well, you took longer than I expected, he states with a knowing smirk. You already know why it took us a day, so stop pretended. Naruto shouts, his normal attitude back, making everyone else happy. Yeah, that's all I need to say. I don't think you're stupid enough not to know what this test is about. There will be a tournament after this one, the last part. I'm sure Gaara is the only other person that will offer you any kind of resistance. Hachibi says. He takes out 3 metal objects and throws 1 at each of them. You'll know what to do with them when the time comes. Till then hide them. He adds, smirking again. I wonder if they'll figure it out before then, and then disappearing in a puff of smoke. Naruto, Hinata, and Haku inspected what they were thrown. They were rings. Naruto's had a diamond in the center and full gold band. Hinata's was an emerald, and like Naruto's a full gold band. Haku had the same band, only a sapphire in the middle and small diamonds around it. Perfect match to their elements. Diamond white like the invisible wind, and ice. Emerald, normally symbol of poison but green color, like her mastery vines, plant stems and such. Sapphire, blue like the waters, of which Haku commanded. Shugoi, they all say at the same time, admiring their ring. Not looking up, they walk out the door, which appeared after their sensei left, to find a huge waiting room and Gaara's team stepping out of a door nearby, with Gaara walking over to them. So you were given rings too, Gaara comments, looking at what was in their hand, but you might want to follow sensei's instructions and hide them. They finally look away from the rings in their hands, and quickly put them in their pocket. Hello Gaara, good to see they didn't slow you down, Haku says, looking around and taking in the room. There was a staircase in the middle of the room that twisted around the room, which is circular, once before disappearing into the ceiling, and from that staircase came a person. There was only 2 teams that had made it to the tower. There were many different sets, some benches, some chairs, even a few couches. Welcome passes of the exam, the person who is now at the bottom of the staircase. If you follow me, I will lead you to your rooms for the remainder of the exam. The 2 groups follow him back up the stairs at a leisurely pace. When they got through the roof, there was a hall with many doors, and the end was open, leading into a huge living room and 2 staircases that lead up to training dojos. In the hallway they stopped at the first door with their leaders saying, these will be your rooms, 1 a team, there is plenty of space. He points at the 2 doors which were opposite each other, and then walked away. Well, 3 days to do whatever, Hinata says, smiling deviously. She opens the door to the room on the right and walks in, her teammates following her. In Mayoshu's forest. Oh, it would appear that we have a visitor, a shadowy figure says. He is currently sitting in Mayoshu's chair, purposely trying to aggravate him. Shall we welcome him, master? He adds, stressing on, master. Enough, Mayoshu says, sitting on makeshift his bed. Zakimaru, why have you come? I was curious as to how much time you had left, and how I might change my plans, Hachibi responds, but it seems you have less time than I though. Indeed, I have, maybe, a week, he says, starting to lie down, and then, you have, a month, to train, before, he breaks out. Hachibi bows and takes off to prepare for what was soon to come. Ha, you think it will take me a month? I'm far better than you believe then, he laughs. I have modified the seal. A month is the less time it will take you. 3.5 days later. All of the teams that were going to get there were here. Out of the 16 teams that went in, 5 got through, meaning there was 15 people, 2 teams being Gaara, Sasuke, Hanabi, Hinata, Naruto, and Haku, the third Neji, Lee, and Tenten, the fourth was Dosu, and his team, and the fifth Shino, Kiba, and Sakura. They were all brought to a huge room in the back of the tower, where there were many spectators, the Hokage, the Junin senseis, Kakashi, and Kurenai, Hachibi, and the clan heads of Hyuga, Aburame, and Inuzuka. The Hokage started in a long lecture about the exam and why the preliminaries were needed and who was going to be there. Okay, I will be the ref, Hachibi says, stepping closer to the genin. A part of the wall moved off to show a TV screen that will generate random names, and the first to chosen will fight first. The rest of you wait on the edges, he adds, and then names start to appear and disappear, form the monitor, eventually deciding on Azumasi Naruto versus Gaara. That's getting rid of the tough opponents first. Naruto, Gaara, Hachibi says, smirking. Everyone else walks up to the ledges. Begin when you're ready. So Gaara, how are we gonna go about this? Naruto says, smiling. Two ninjutsu and genjutsu each, rest taijutsu, Gaara says, smirking, knowing he just plotted his downfall. Very well, Naruto says, doing many hand seals in the blink of an eye. He sucks in air and says, Futen, Renkuden. Instead of a small bullet-like wind that Gaara expected, it expanded into a huge spiraling blast. Gaara is quick to react though, doing many seals. He says, Futen, Kei's Hansha no Jutsu, wind reflection, a spiraling barrier that started from a slanted position on the ground begins to make itself noticed. Naruto's attack flies backwards, only the angle on it makes it hit the roof, easily it often sending it flying. The audience gasps, such destruction from mere genin. Gaara's defense drops and Naruto appears in front of him, throwing a punch to his gut. It was blocked by the sand, and the next punch was too fast. It hit Gaara square in the face, sending him flying. Naruto appears next to him only to hit a dissolving person, blending into the wall and ground, and then they start to distort. Naruto says, a genjutsu. The people watching fade away and Haku and Hinata appear in the darkness that was left behind, dressed in nothing and a teasing smile on both of their faces. Naruto knew it wasn't real but could bring himself to stop it. They got closer and closer and then he blacked out. Naruto, Gaara says, shaking his head, his hand still in the spear shape he used to hit a pressure point. I thought you would be able to get out of that illusion. He sighs and picks up Naruto after being declared the winner and places him by Haku and Hinata on the ledge. They all look at the billboard-like thing. Sasuke vs. Hanabi, winner Sasuke. Neji vs. Lee, winner Neji. Tenten vs. Dosu, winner Dosu. Zaku vs. Shino, winner Shino. Kiba vs. Sakura, winner Kiba. The next and final match, Hinata vs. Haku. Kin would get a free ride. Both of the constants walk to the area. Good luck, Hinata, Haku says happily. This will be a fun match. Yes, it will, Hinata responds, sliding into her stance as they arrive there. What limitations? She asks. Whatever you feel is necessary, Haku says. Hachibi doesn't even say anything, knowing they would start when ready. Same as Gaara and Naruto-kun's match, Hinata says. Haku nods and they both charge. Hinata activates her bloodline as she reaches Haku and throws out a hand. Haku dodges and does a roundhouse kick that was pushed away, rather painfully by Hinata's hand. In the process sealing most of her tenketsu. Haku jumps back trying to reopen her tenketsu. Hinata takes the time and uses her genjutsu. She disappears. A tap on the shoulder that sends pain through her arm makes Haku jump away, starting to do hand seals. Many more her appear, effectively giving Haku time to find a way through Hinata's genjutsu. A sound on foot hitting cement registered in her brain. Quickly ducking to the right, she dodges Hinata's attack. Damn, I make too much noise, Hinata says, jumping away as Haku throws needles at the pervious location that she was in. Moving as quietly as possible, Hinata sneaks up on Haku but feels an elbow in her gut, making her break her concentration, reviling her to everyone. With no blocks, her Byakugan activated. Hinata. Hiashi says in disbelief. Damn it, she's alive, he thinks, but makes no real attempt yet to do anything. Hinata jumps away and Haku turns around only to see Hinata midway in her Hakurokuju. Haku's eye widens. She tries to escape but in vain. The first 8 strikes Haku manages to block, but after that she is hit full on and then slumps to that ground. Hinata gasps. Haku-chan, she says, holding Haku. Are you okay? Stop being too kind to you, opponent, Haku says, smiling. I lost. I could pull out my demon and unseal my tenketsu, but, she says, doing just that but not making an effort to attack, I forfeit even if I can fight. Hinata, Hiashi yells, you will come here this instant. Surprising everyone. HMP, Hachibi turn around, I don't think so. Who are you to question me? Hiashi growls at him. I am merely the person who's taken care of her, Naruto, Haku, and Gaara, he responds. I don't believe you have a say over anything they do anymore, Hiashi, for you see demon mate for life. And how does that have to do with anything? Simple, Hinata is a Jinchuriki, something you've hidden from everyone. That was another motive to getting her back, isn't it? You were afraid that your blood limit would disappear if the demon was no longer in your possession, but now, the seal has been altered and she will eventually merge with her demon, becoming a half-demon. As such the rules of demon fall on her. Hachibi smirks. So, are you telling me she has mated? Hiashi says, looking like he's about to say something. In fact she has, isn't that right, Naruto, Haku? Hachibi chuckles, slightly turning around to see both of them standing up. A sudden flare of intent from Hiashi alerted everyone that he was about to attack. I'll kill you, he yells, charging at Hinata, all the others starting to try and stop him, but it was too late. Hachibi starts full-blown laughter. I didn't think it would work out so perfectly. He says out loud, not realizing it. The adults look at him. You must interfere. He'll kill her, Kakashi says, standing next to Hachibi. Don't underestimate my Jinchuriki, he says, or it might be the last thing you do. This is a necessary part. What he doesn't realize is that Hinata is still under his rule, only her mates have been set in stone. Mates, they all ask. With no response they decide to watch the fight. Hiashi is currently standing in the center of the room looking around for Hinata, but no one can seem to find her. Hiashi flips backwards, narrowly avoiding a K that would have K him. A solitary vine pops up from the cement. Finally, Hinata whispers, quickly moving away for that spot. Many vine then emerge from the ground, making it crumble. Hiashi struck at the spot she was in quite a bit too late. Hinata's new help started to lash out at Hiashi almost like a whip, distracting him while Hinata snuck up on him. She sears her target and begins her hack Rokujuyonshu, deactivating her cloak in the posses, but it was too late to stop her. Every hit landed, leaving Hiashi useless on the floor. How? Hiashi says, struggling to stay conscious. Hinata smiles and pulls out her ring, and then puts it on. Naruto and Haku follow her example and jump to her. Both of them K her, separately of course. You. Both of you. Before they could answer, Hachibi says. And now she has defeated you, meaning you can no longer control her in any way. Blinded by rage, you didn't even pay attention, did you, Hiashi? He appears behind them, Sanbi and Gobi beside him, Nibi behind him, and beside her Shichibi and Kimimaro. We are leaving now, Hachibi says, letting go of the suppression. Gaara, Hinata, Haku, Naruto, let's go, he adds. Then he and all the others jump to the top of the walls surrounding the area. Hinata, Naruto, Haku, and Gaara soon follow them, leaving the village and everyone in it in shock. They travel at manageable speed for the Jinchuriki and Kimimaro, taking almost 2 days to arrive at the destination, Myaoshu's field, and the waiting grasp of what was to follow his death. Welcome, the tired voice of Myaoshu said, sitting in his chair, the vague image of the seal demon gone. I have little time, let's hurry, he adds, standing up, using the tree as a support. I will give the Jinchuriki what little power I can salvage. They will become half-demon. Gaara, Hinata, Haku, and Naruto looks confused, but as they're soon told, and stand in front of him. He smiles one last time before bringing his hands up into an odd seal they had never seen before. Myaoshu's body slowly fades away into glowing energy. It divides itself into 4 even balls, before rocketing at the Jinchuriki, hitting them before they even knew what was happening, but they didn't fall. In fact, the energy was absorbed by their body. A small flash of light erupted from their bee. When it faded, they all had tails, see, longer and sharper teeth, and most with odd fur-covered ears. Naruto had 2 red tails, and red fox ears. Hinata had 2 tails, a lavender color, and the same color ears. Haku had 2 blue tails and ears. Gaara had 2 black tails and normal ears. What happened? Naruto asks, noticing his tails and everyone else's ears and such. He gave the rest of his life, which was about a half a week, and in return you received powers equivalent to a 2-tailed demon, but in the process you became half-demon, Hachibi explained. Now then, we need to train you. You will notice many things different. Kimimaro, I'll be training you one-on-one again. Let's go, Shichibi says, turning off towards the open field. Kimimaro following behind, not complaining. He knew he still was no match for him. At minimum we only have 1 month, so we need to start right now, Gobi says turning towards the Jinchuriki. I'll only train Gaara till he masters his new abilities and no farther, Nibi says still resenting the world and more or less wanting to leave now and join the other side. We'll talk later Nibi, Hachibi says anger clear in his voice, right now we need to train them. Half a month later, Nibi, Hachibi says far enough away from the others, who were all busy training, as to not be heard even if he yelled, don't you understand what's going to happen? I understand fully and I would rather be with him, there's no point to human life, she growls back. This isn't about human life. This is about everything that you've ever cared about, your brothers and sisters, your student. If he is unleashed everything will crumble, everything that you've ever worked for, nothing can stand in his way, only all of our power together can do that. Even then we might not stand a chance, don't you understand? I understand everything, and you never help me, why should I care if you Why should I care if anything and everything She turns around ready to his face in. Everything means you too, are you ready to pay that price? What you've said is a lie, I always tried but you turned away, you turn everyone away, it's your fault not ours. All the more reason not to care. At this Hachibi punched her, throwing her through 10 trees that were right behind her and shattering her skull, but she just got up. Do you think hitting me will get you anywhere? No, but that was to relive some of my anger. He turns around and walks away. I obviously won't be able to convince you. Just know this, when those who tried, all those who helped, and all those who you love are it's because you would not help us. Nibi stands there for a while only able to stare, and not because of her injuries. Eventually she turns away from the field and the training people, and starts to walk, with no idea where she was going to go. He was right, everything he said was right, but yet she didn't want to believe him. Another 2 weeks. Hey, he held this field so dear. A 7'4" person in a black cloak says, his mouth twisted into a maniacal smile as he pulled out the sword which was on his back, and as long as he was tall he grips it with both hands and across the field, emitting a huge gust of wind that destroyed everything in its path. None of which a human would be able to see, for it was black. Leave, Hachibi says standing behind him, scythe drawn and ready. The tall man swings his sword around only to have it blocked by the steel shaft of Hachibi's scythe. You're in no position to be demanding things from me, he says, slowly turning around to face the only awake member of the group, with his smile still intact. They both jumped back, and then charged, Hachibi's scythe going down onto the other's head, only to be blocked by his sword. He then pushes the end of the shaft forwards trying to hit him. A hand blocked it and then grabbed it, trying to hold it in place. The sword was pulled away from the scythe's blade and then a vertical C was made through Hachibi's B, but the cloaked man felt a blade go through the core of his B. The scythe's blade competed what it tried to before. You're lucky I'm just a clone, he says smirking, also lucky that it'll take me about a month to get here. Train well Hachibi. He starts laughing which echoes throughout the field as his B dissipates. Hachibi's wound disappears as if it was never made in the first place, but the field was in ruins. I'm sorry Mayao, he thinks, tiredly walking back to Serena's open arms, as if patiently waiting his return. As he lies down next to her, her arms encircle him and she rolls on top of him, only half asleep. 3 days before, a month later. 7 people, missing only Shichibi, Nibi, and Kimimaro, were training in a field, mild training, knowing someone could pop up at any time and attack them, but nevertheless training. Overlooking the scene was a 7'4" person in full black clothes, tight shirt showing his muscles, and slightly baggy pants, with a huge sword swung over his back. His eyes be black, barely able to see the slitted pupils. An evil smile rose up on his face as he started walking towards them. Well, isn't this fun? He says, laughing at their response, which was to jump around and intently get ready for a battle. Come now, do you think you'll win? He asks, smiling maliciously. It doesn't matter if we win, as long as we try to protect those precious to us, Sanbi says, reverting to a half-demon form, more or less just sprouting tails, ears, and fangs, as do the other demons. You will not live, Hachibi says, charging at him enraged. For Mayao, Serena, my students, I will kill you. In an instant his scythe is out and ready. The other person just laughed even when Hachibi's scythe through his B. Have you forgotten something? Hachibi, he says, his smile widening, as Hachibi pulls his scythe away. The other demon just wound heal instantly. You'll need a Kumasatsu for this. Hachibi growls at him. QB is the only one to perfected that, he thinks. letting the illusions fall, revealing 8 brown tails, fangs, and and charges again, readying a kumasatsu, only to have his enemy's huge sword block it. Hachibi thrusts the end forward, bringing one hand back, so that the blade of the scythe still check the sword, but the end into his enemy's head that disappears. Impressive, you know how to work a scythe. Usually people only use the blade, a calm voice said behind Hachibi. He twirls around ready for anything. Baku, stop playing around, Hachibi growls out at him. Throwing his scythe, it twirls around very fast and Baku just bends back, making it barely miss. The scythe then returns on the same path and Hachibi catches it. But it's so much more fun this way. You're so weak, he says back smirking, but he pulls out his sword again and disappears. Hachibi's scythe's shaft barely blocks the swing that would have decapitated him from the back to the front. Good job. He disappears again, and this time his sword is through Hachibi's stomach and Hachibi's scythe just barely missing his spine. Flashback. A man, in a black cloak, stood in the middle of a small clearing, bear and human beside him. Just now appearing on the ground, a child appears, fully dressed in a rather rag-looking brown shirt and pants. Looking almost like he was 10, he sacredly looked all around. The man walked away smirking. Let's see if this one is as promising as the last, he says quietly enough so that the boy would not hear him. 5 people in cloaks and carrying scythes appeared in front of him, now out of the clearing. The boy. The boy looked around and saw a scary man in a cloak walking away, a woman beside him, her heart out, and a bear on the other side of him with similar wounds as the woman. Suddenly 2 people in cloaks appeared in front and behind him, scythes already in mid-swing. He jumps up, surprising everyone when he kicks the man in front of him in the head, him instantly. Enraged, the other man quickly punched towards the kid only to have him walk across his arm and kick his head clean off. 3 more people appeared and attacked him. He grabbed a scythe and proceeded to everyone there. A man walked out of the forest with a kind smile and baggy bluish faded clothes. Child, are you okay? What happened here? He asks, pretending to be clueless. This one would get his personally training. The kid clutched the scythe, ready to attack if needed. From that day he never went anywhere without his scythe. Flashback end. Hachibi tore out his scythe straight up his enemy's spine, before uneye himself and jumping away, coughing up Baku smiles, standing up fully, his wound slowly closing. Interesting, are you trying to tell me that you haven't mastered that yet? He laughed. Hachibi's wound still easily seen, he clutches one hand to it. Damn it, Hachibi says, trying hard to heal his wound, but it was nearly useless. It only slightly closed by the time the next attack came, clean through his ribcage. In an attempt to not go out in vain, he throws his scythe's blade at Baku, but he easily dodges. Zakimaru. Sanbi yells, tears falling down her cheeks, making Baku laugh. Hachibi manages to jump away, and that buys him enough time to bring his hands up into a seal. Smirking, he says, I had never intended on that's someone else's job. His body slowly fade into energy, like Mayoshu did. The energy slowly floats over to Sanbi as if saying a final goodbye before it rockets to Naruto, who sprouts 8 more tails from the 2 he had. Baku laughs even more. Haku, Hinata, Naruto, and surprisingly Gaara silently cry, not able to do anything. So you think that child will beat me? Even if he does have more power than you, he'll never be as skilled. Suddenly a large burst of chakra came from Sanbi, tears running down her cheeks. She yells out in agony and her swords from their sheaths, destroying them in the process. You'll for that, she shouts, charging at him. Her sword explode in lightning. She reaches her destination in mere seconds and unleashes a barrage of attacks, most of which are deflected or dodged, but after 20 attacks she finally lands one in his right arm, below the shoulder, severing the nerves, and the electricity goes through his arms, totally destroying all the nerves and muscles, rendering his arm useless. He jumps away. Damn, that hurt, he slight curses, making Sanbi smirk slightly, but continue her restless assault, making it hard for him to even see what was wrong with his arm. It was left hanging limb while he tried to block every attack with his massive sword in his left hand. Soon he found an opening and kicked at it. Hitting her in the stomach, he quickly follows her and his sword her arm, see it clean off. How do you like it? Sanbi now is pulled out of her rage and looks at her body, noticing many which her lightning had backfired on her. Damn you. Flashback. There was a girl in the middle of a field crying the corpses of 5 other people lying around her, a woman and a fox which both had their hearts out, and the 3 other people up badly, and man walks into the clearing, hate in his eyes until they land on the only person alive. That he whispers, quickly walking over to the child and puts an arm around her. Are you okay? She looks up at him and smiles for the first time in her short life. End flashback. The person in front of her stumbles backwards, clutching his wound, and smirks. She forgot to reply lightning. His wound closes in a matter of seconds and he grabs his sword with his left hand, his right still dangling at his side. Well, it's good you still have some fight in ya. It'd be boring otherwise. What should I do now? He says in a way that could make a girl want to run. And all guys hope he's straight, and a hungry smile replaces his smirk. Like you'll ever get that far, I'd K myself before you see my body. Sanbi replies. Only Zakimaru gets that pleasure, she adds in her mind, standing up readying her last arm and sword for combat, her anger renewed, and the sword explodes into lightning. It's a shame you'll just give away your power, thus your life, before I could even get close enough to have some fun, he says, pulling out his sword. He goes to S off her H, but the ground underneath him opens up, forcing him to jump back and then block finger bones that were shooting at him. Flashback. A girl is running through a town which she pretty much K everyone in and made off with anything of value to her, smirking when some ninja appear in front of her. With a flick of her hand they were no more. She jumped to the top of a high mountain that happened to be near the town. She looked at the town. Half of it was burning and all of it was destroyed. She laughed slightly. Foolish humans, they can't do anything, she says, putting down the bags she was carrying. That'll teach them for trying to hurt Zakimaru. She started to salvage through the bags, letting her illusion drop, revealing two tails and fox ears. Bummer, nothing good, she adds with a pout. How many more people are you going to K for me? A man says, standing beside Serena, or at this time the Nibby, smirking slightly. Until they learn not to stand against you, she shouts, jumping around to face him. Zakimaru, the current Shichibi, hugs her. Serena's eyes widen, shocked at this show of compassion, but quickly returns the hug and closes her eyes, and rests her head on his shoulder. I love you. I know, he says, smirking, and I love you. Serena's eyes open, her body nearly seized up. How long she had waited to her tough's words. Nearly 1,000 years, that was far too long even for a demon to wait. She brings her head back to look into his eyes. They were full of none other than love, lust, and kindness. Serena moved her head towards his and K him the first time he let her. This was sure to be a day to remember. End flashback. Serena coughed up, bringing her hand to her wound. She leans against a tree and slides down it. Zaki, Maru, I'll see you in hell, my dear, wait for me. Slowly she brings her hand away from her wound and makes an odd one-handed seal. Her body starts to fade. Zaki, Maru, I love. Her sentence was C short as her B disappears fully and the remaining energy goes to Hinata, who sprouts 3 more tails. Now she has 5 tails, the Jinchuriki still unable to do anything. Baku jumps to the side, avoiding a blade that tears even the ground apart, then hold his sword flat side up, blocking a whirlwind with a person holding to blades straight out. Baku shoves his blade at his attack and throws him off balance, making him stop his attack. He shirks. So it would seem we have Shichibi and his bloodline carrier. Baku mocks, if Hachibi and Sanbi couldn't win, what makes you think you can? He add, laughing. He quickly has to block a sword which rivaled the size of his. Oh, copying me. I will honor Hachibi and Sanbi's death with your head, Shichibi says. Kimimaro bring his hands up, launching his finger bones and then rushing at Baku, 2 bones swords in hand. Baku dodges the finger bones, leaving Shichibi to whatever, then swipes at Kimimaro's weapons, see them clean in half. Not giving him time to react, he throws his sword at him. Master, Kimimaro says, his hands instinctively going into the same strange seal. Take my power. Like everyone else, his body changes into energy, but goes to Shichibi, barely doing much to alter his chakra capitals. It might just prove to be the deciding power in the near future. Damn, Shichibi curses, that was quick, he adds, quickly charging at Baku, trying to catch him without his sword, but Baku disappears and is now at his sword ready to fight. Ha, is that all the speed you can muster? He taunts. This entire time he had just been playing around, hoping they might entertain him, but so far it seems that he overestimated them, or underestimated himself, whichever it was. This was starting to get boring. AK, which Baku just barely dodges, hits the tree that was close behind him. See off some of his hair quickly. He blocks a sword, had half turns to the tree, hold his sword with his right hand and grabbing someone else's hand, which was holding another K, jumping away as the ground crumbles beneath him. Well, that's interesting, Baku says, cracking his N. Since when does Nibby care about anything but herself? He adds, smirking as he sees Nibby standing by Shichibi, dropping her K in favor of activating her red glowing C. Since you K my family, she says, charging at him. Baku discards his sword and blocks Nibi's attack with the back of his hand. Doing this with her other hand, he stretches out a palm to her C and she goes flying away, caught by Gobi. Ha ha, so they've destined to attack as a team. Baku holds out a hand blocking the sword which was being swung at him, surprising his attacker who jumps away not wanting to be the receiving end of an attack. This might be interesting, he smirks, reducing some of his power output, hoping that would add to the entertainment. AK goes through Baku's hand, which was brought up to protect himself. Glowing C pass through his B, leaving no marks. The illusion disappears. Shichibi is the first to react, quickly turning around. He at where Baku appears behind him, blocked with nothing more than his hand. A small amount of B drips off his hand. Baku smirks. So you can leave C with the huge sword of yours, eh? What else can it do? He mocks Shichibi only to have to jump away as the ground collapses. That's an interesting ability, but I really hope you don't think it'll help in the long run. Now he's trying to get his attacker angry. He might be hiding something like Sanbi. Oh, that reminds me, he thinks, bringing his left hand to his limp right one. How am I going to go about healing this nerves? Damn that B, I should have K her fist. Putting his thoughts aside, he barely dodges a glowing C. Getting distracted. Does your wound still hurt? Poor baby, Nibi says, putting as much fake empathy as possible into the sentences, hoping to get him mad, but Baku just laughs. He grabs the K that was launched at him with enough speed for the blunt side to be considered razor sharp and throws it back at Gobi. Na just pondering how to heal it. He jumps away from Shichibi's sword, but when he lands, the ground crumbles under his weight, leaving him vulnerable. 1K and 1 shuriken multiply into many, nearly 200, and waiting in all places of escape the tree demons that are trying to K him. Baku laughs, surprising everyone. You think this is gonna K me? He says after recovering from his laughing fit. He smirks. Many of the K and shuriken hit. His entire B was covered in K. Baku digs himself out of the ground, like nothing happened. He then sets to work on taking out the K. Lucky for him, all the fakes disappear and all he has to do is pull out the 2 real ones. He cracks his N followed by his arm and knuckles, then stretches out his back and then walks over to his sword, picking it up and putting it back in its sheath. He readies his only available arm. Come. A glowing C was caught by his hands, another one dodged. Turning 270 degrees, Baku throws Nibi at Gobi and runs at Shichibi. A swing of his sword dodged. The ground all around Shichibi caved in, but Baku was standing right on the edge of the circle that was left. Before anything more can happen, Gobi and Nibi charge Baku. He jumps away and waits to see who will gain this fool's power. QB, Shichibi says, coughing up B, his hand already in the seal. Have my power and K this demon. His body turns to energy, then goes to Naruto. Now instead of getting 17 tails, all of Naruto's tails except 2 disappear, leaving him in the state he was in before. Interesting, Baku says, observing what just happened to Naruto. Here, I thought you'd get 17 tails, he adds, chuckling a little at his stupid remark. A Shichibi? That was unheard of. After 10 tails they just don't appear, but to lose all but 2 was something new in itself. Maybe QB took the tails, he thinks, laughing lightly at that. This would make his job easier. The boy would never be able to draw out so much power. Don't look away, Gobi says, twin K in her hands, going in for AS each. Baku pulls his sword around his body and blocks both of them. Nibi lands beside him, cursing, but quickly tries to hit him with her glowing C. Baku jumps away, returning the sword to its place. Did you think you could predict my movements so easily? He asks, laughing at the end. Nibi's C find their way into Baku's B. A little bit off the center of his ribcage, she tears out all of the bone on his left side. Baku gets away from there in an instant, his body reforming even the mission organs and bone. Too bad that was only a normal attack. Gobi falls to the ground, coughing up B. She slowly crawls to Haku, who runs to her. They meet in mere seconds and Haku quickly pulls Suyako into a hug and starts up a healing jutsu. Flashback. 3 clock men stood in front of a female child who appeared to be 12. They charged her. As if on instinct, she dodges all of the attacks, jumping to the edge of the forest. AK grazes her shoulder, leaving behind a slight C and sticks into a tree. The child grabs the K and S at the man that just run in front of her, C many arteries and easily disabling him, left to be to death. The child is hit with 2K, 1 into each arm, making her unable to do anything. The other 2 people in cloaks slowly walk towards her, drawing AK each as they arrive. Their heads fall off. A man with no shirt and a now sheathed sword smirks. Surprising you didn't win. He walks away, not even looking back, not even caring. He meets with another man's fist that nearly S his face and he just walks away. I told you to let toughs who do not win s, he says angrily. He hated the weak, it would seem, surprising her that he did not K both of them but instead walks away from them. Ya whatever my Aoshu, the other replies. They both leave her sight, not helping her, just left to s of hunger or dehydration. However, as fate would have it, a woman in sunglasses stumbled upon her. She smiles slightly. My dear, I cannot let you s here, that would ruin what I have tried to do, she says in a rather uncaring way. She takes out the K and watches her wounds heal, almost fascinated by it. Good, he really did make them demons. The girl takes off the lady's sunglasses, saying, it's not that bright out. Giggling slightly before she sees her empty eye sockets glowing in a light purple, the kid gasps. The lady disappears, leaving her glasses behind and making the new demon wonder what was going on. Flashback end. Haku, Suyako says, snuggling close to her, don't waste your chakra, she adds, knowing what she was trying to do. Her hands slowly form the familiar death seal behind Haku's back. Don't say that, Haku says, desperately wanting her mother to life. You'll make it. I know you will. I'm sorry, it has to end this way. Please take my power and avenge us with the OTH. She tries to tell Haku but was see off when her bee fully disappears and her power enters Haku's body. Haku, now enraged and fully in control of Suyako's power, stands up, her face plastered in an angry frown and growling. Haku, Gaara says, his hand on her shoulder, rage won't solve this, we must work together with clear minds, that is the only way, he adds, trying to calm her at least a little before the inevitable battle. If there is a way for us to win, that is, he whispers to himself, hoping no one heard. Baku just stands back, waiting for what she would do. Either way, no one could beat him. Su Makiko, who gets your powers? Baku mocks, smirking. Makiko's hands form the same seal as everyone else. Her body turns to energy, leaving no words of wisdom before she disappears. The energy flies to Gaara and he gets 2 more tails. Now the Jinchuriki, I wonder what you can do, Baku mocks them. Hinata disappears. Naruto and Haku get into a fighting stances. Gaara crosses his arms. Well, the new Gobi, Hinata, doesn't realize that Genjutsu will get you nowhere. Baku dodges strike after strike from Hinata. Just to prove his point, he hits her hard enough to fly back into Naruto's arms but not do any damage. Haku makes 20 water clones and sends them at Baku, all of which are disposed of with one swipe from his sword, leaving water pools everywhere. Naruto charges, with Hinata and Haku close behind. He takes out his sword, which is just a regular kanata, with Hinata following his example. They both do a horizontal S from opposite sides of his B. Haku jumps behind him, readying her needles. They all hit S on and quickly retreat as Gaara sand encases Baku and then squishes him. Laughter starts emanating from inside. All of the sand is forcefully removed, sending it flying everywhere. The Jinchuriki had to close their eyes so that it didn't blind them. Standing in the same place, Baku completely unharmed, just waiting for what they would do next, a smirk plastered on his face. He takes his sword with its sheath and throws it away. So you know I won't use it, Baku explains. He lets his arm fall down and waits like that in anticipation, for they did not know that only taijutsu could affect him. Naruto runs at him, Haku close behind, bringing her hands into a seal. Baku's legs become entangled with vines and Hinata starts a long chain of seals. Gaara disappears. Naruto kicks Baku, then quickly dodges to the side. Haku jabs him with a needle before jumping over him and finishing her technique. Ice mirrors rise from the ground. Only Baku sees, or should see, nothing but a demon rise up before him. Haku creates 2 water clones and all 3 sink into a mirror. Her most bloodline related technique was about to be unleashed on an enemy for the first time in nearly 6 years. The Hakus ready their needles, and all at once, faster than the eye could see, there were many needles littered on the ground and implanted into Baku's B. All of his vital spots had been hit. For some reason, Baku stood there smirking, unfazed by the attack. A wave of demonic chakra bursts from his B. All the needles went flying away. Every other person had to dodge them. The chakra wave continues expanding in a spherical shape. It destroys the mirrors, making Haku's clones disappear and sending her back at the others. The sphere continues to expand. Naruto, Hinata, Haku, and Gaara run from the wall, not wanting to see what it could do at them firsthand. It eventually stopped at 5 kilometers wide on each side. Before it subsided, giving way to a new form of Baku. A horn sprouted out of each of his shoulders in a straight diagonal manner, completed with fangs and C. This is my true human form and my full power, B brags, smirking slightly. Use your demons and the power given to you, or I will kill you here and now. they were all paralyzed by the sheer power of the enemy in front of them. The only way out to use said power as they did, calling on all the demonic chakra and skill in their system. More tails appeared, Haku with 10 but the power of 13, Gaara with 5, Hinata with 9, and Naruto with 10 but the power of 17. Naruto was unable to call on any of the Kyuubi's chakra. This is where the real fight begins. They all knew it and also knew if even one of them fell then the rest would soon follow. With so much at stake, all they could do is hope that everything goes according to the plan they just made up. Elsewhere in sound territory, Orochimaru, a deep voice came from the door of said person's office. Looking up he could see two men in black cloaks with red clouds, one of them almost crawling. Orochimaru sneered. "What does the Akatsuki think that Sasori alone can't beat me?" he asks, smirking. "The Akatsuki are we are all that's left," Sasori says with no true care about the situation. "We came here to ask if you still wish to obtain the power or a demon. We know of a place where the Jinchuriki are fighting an even more powerful enemy as we speak. Don't think we can take them alone anymore. They got the other demons' powers as well as full control of their own," the other added in, the straw hat still in place, making his face unseen and the voice almost sounding like someone pretending to have a deep voice. "Your best chance is after the fight when they're weak. What do you need me for? I didn't think even if the Akatsuki you'd run to help from me. You're capable of doing this yourself." Orochimaru asks, honestly interested as to why they would need him. "Because having even one of them free and on the run is an annoyance, and we can get a mutual no attack between the three that are in this room a lot easier than anyone else," the hidden one says, starting to get irritated. Orochimaru says, "So there's 3 Jinchuriki alive?" he asks. "There are 4 but the weakest of them will before the battle ends, or we will K him afterwards," the same person responds. "Make up your mind, Orochimaru, I don't like to wait, you should know that," Sasori says, very irritated, getting Orochimaru to smirk. "Okay, how do you plan to take their powers now? Since the original idea will no longer work," Orochimaru asks. The other two quickly launch into an explanation and after they're finished, Orochimaru leaves in charge and the rest take off to the battlefield. Back at the battlefield. Naruto appears above Baku and sends a quick punch to the back of his making him horizontal to the ground, followed by a kick to his spinal cord, breaking it. Baku falls to the ground fast and on a huge wave of dust blocks everyone's view. As it settles there is a 10 feet deep and 25 feet wide hole in the ground and Naruto laying on the edge. "He was weak," Baku says. Hinata and Haku jump forward and turn around, landing in their fighting stance. "I hope you prove more of a challenge." He runs forward, closing the distances in mere seconds, 2 fists to their guts, sending them away to crash into the other side of the hole. Baku slowly walks towards them to finish them but is forced to dodge a fist. Naruto is now standing in front of Baku, his red-slitted eyes focused on nothing but him, ready to react to any movements. Sand quickly found its way to the top of Baku's from the bottom, leaving him completely covered in sand, and tightens around the engulfed person, making sure he won't live. Gaara adds 5 times the normal pressure. Naruto roars, nearly shattering everyone's eardrums. He begins to form another tail, one made out of pure chakra, before disappearing. Naruto is now flying away and Haku is behind Baku. A sea swipes through Baku's clothes and skin, leaving 4 deep sea. Baku back kicks Haku and she hits the tree that was behind her. Baku then charges after Naruto. "Very nice," a voice sounds from behind the crater, "but too bad that was just a clone." Baku adds, appearing on the other side of the crater. He is instantly attacked by all 3 of them. Dodging their attacks, he simply waits for an opening that he knows is soon. A minute passes and he sweeps out Hinata's legs. Baku bends his torso backwards, avoiding the attacks, and quickly turns just his torso till it's facing him again. He punches Hinata and elbows Haku in the back, sending her into the crater. He jumps into the air, twirling around as he straightens his and stretches out a leg, hitting Naruto in the jaw and throwing him away. He knees Naruto in the chin, making him go faster, and as Naruto's torso passes Baku's, Baku punches him in the gut. Naruto hits the ground, creating a 5-foot hole. Coughs up some he lays there trying to repair his and catch his breath. Baku slowly walks down the crater, savoring the look of pure pain and hate of Naruto's face. He vanishes. In his place appears Hinata with an outstretched arm. She then quickly turns to Naruto and runs forward, already activating a healing jutsu. "Naruto-kun," Hinata says concernedly. She starts to heal some of the wounds, only to get kicked in the face by none other than Baku. Isn't that sweet? She's worried about Naruto-kun, Baku says, smirking, imitating Hinata's voice and concern at the last part. Too bad such wounds could never kill a demon, not even a half-demon, he adds, lifting his right leg and spinning around to deliver a roundhouse to Haku's jaw. Naruto-kun, if he's doing that will not change anything. Haku whispers into Naruto's ear, concerned her lover might do something terrible in his rage. Please Naruto-kun, stop this. Hinata whispers in his other ear, don't become what he wants, what he thinks you are. Naruto's hands recede from their position on top of Baku's sea. Laughter erupts from the Baku. What an interesting display, he says, retreating to the side of the crater. Too bad they stopped you, that might have killed me. I guess the QB doesn't have as much control over you as I thought, probably better for me though. Baku smirks and starts to open his mouth, but Naruto was right in his face a second later, launching many punches and kicks trying to hit his enemy that just continued to dodge or block every single one. For minutes it goes on like this. Most inexperienced people would assume that Naruto has the upper hand, but if you tried hard enough you'd be able to see that his attacks were slowing down. Is that all? Have you already reached your limit? Baku taunts, which make Naruto's attack quicken again, getting a smirk from Baku. So if I taunt you, you'll get better. Or is this a temporary increase only to make you weaker in the end? Not waiting for him to get slower this time, Baku just thrusts a knee into Naruto's exposed gut, sending him back far enough to kick him in the sea. Quickly following him, Baku's sea sink into Naruto's sides. Baku's feet already on the ground, slowing down the backward trajectory. He then lifts Naruto above his head and throws him into the nearby ground, making a trench mark. Baku extends his arm and opens his hand, releasing a red beam of energy that shoots to Naruto, exploding on eye. It expands to nearly 10 feet around, incinerating all of the surroundings. As the attack clears, you could see a figure in the middle of the crater struggling to stand up, fighting for just that to be added to his arsenal. You can still try to stand. Impressive, Baku says, shooting another beam at him. The same thing happens, only this time the figure lays motionless on the ground. That's better, he says, smirking. The room was filled with darkness, the sound of dripping water, and a light red tinge. A boy's bee is slouched on the wall, barely visible. It slowly rises and walks to the sound, and the red light, as the boy steps into the room which the light is emanating from, now clearly able to make out the boy's features. Needless to say, it was a miracle he was even alive, let alone walking. You're pathetic, kid, a person says, leaning on a gate which he was sealed behind. You didn't even last 2 shots here. I thought you might actually slow him down for me. Yeah, well, you try and defend against that without your damned shield. Naruto snarls back, let me back out, I have to finish him. You'll before you even stand like that, kid, QB replies, turning around to face him. Let me switch the seal again. Your body can heal in here while I fight him. No QB, I won't let you do that again, Naruto says, falling down in the middle of the room. I'll find a way to do it myself. Are you an idiot? I'm not even sure if I can KO him. Only now that he can't use his other hand do I stand a chance. It'll take me all the strength I have to win, and even if I don't use it all, by the time I'm done with him you'll be able to get control back. Then why do you want to fight him? Naruto asks skeptically. I thought you'd only do things to benefit yourself. If I KO him I can then be the strongest in this dimension, and I want a challenge, not like that old greaser that if you just wait he'll tire himself. I promise you I won't hurt Haku or Hinata. And demon law states that if one promises something that it must be kept unless it would compromise one's health, and if I don't fight him and I'm sealed in you, so Naruto thinks about what to do. Nearly 5 minutes later he says, fine QB, KO him and then return to your seal. Naruto drops his defense and intently the cage switches places, freeing QB and sealing Naruto. Meanwhile on the battlefield, Naruto-kun, Hinata and Haku scream, both charging at Baku. Knowing there was nothing they could do to help Naruto, they decide to get revenge, or trying. Baku ignores them once again, looking back to his arm and frowns. The wound is healed, but I still can't move it. What did she do to the nerves, he thinks, sighing. Damn woman. He shakes his head slightly and raises his other arm, shooting out 2 beams at the approaching people. They make contact but clouds Baku's vision for over 2 minutes. A pair of fists rocket to hit Baku, who leans back, dodging both of them. He plants his hand on the ground and flips back, barely missing Hinata's and Haku's chin. Suddenly there's 30 Hakus surrounding Baku, all going in for a hit. Baku jumps into the air a little bit forward and twirls around, his legs extended, every clone within 3.5 feet of his starting place and ending a destroyed, leaving large pools of water and only about 10 clones left. Is that all? How many times are you going to use that? Baku taunts. He quickly K off the rest of the clones and waits for what was bound to happen, but something different than he expected happened. Vines sprouted from the ground and rapidly grew huge, large enough to be trees themselves, but at least 2 meters wider than the thickest tree there. The vines all came crashing down to Baku's location, near immediate location, and farther out in hopes of him not being able to escape, but just in case Haku and Hinata waited on opposite sides of the vines. A groan was, just barely, hear from inside Hinata and Haku where they're in seconds out of the way if the vines were to be thrown away, but close enough to get to Baku before he could get and rest. As expected, many vines were thrown backwards, even getting derooted, and in seconds the man inside was dodging and blocking punches and kicks. To end it quickly, Baku took one punch full on and half fists Hinata in the T, making her gasp for breath and stumble backwards, and then knee Haku in the gut, giving much the same effect as on Hinata. Gentle clapping was heard with the call of, "Good show." If you would look to the source of the sound, there was a man with no shirt showing his muscles, red pants, and red hair falling over his face, completely unkempt, and a katana on his belt, which was in a black sheath. "QB, how nice of you to join us," Baku says calmly, and arrogant smirk climbing onto his face. "You wish to be beaten too?" "Actually, I'd rather be the one dealing the beating," QB responds, chuckling quietly to himself, but who knows how this might turn out. He adds a smirk on his face as well. He jumps down from his perch on one of the vines and lands right in front of Baku. "If this is your full power, I won't have any fun at all," Baku says confidently, reaching back to his sword with was there. "Damn right. Guess you're lucky then, this is only my power. I didn't feel like drawing on this till I had to." QB says his power starts to increase rapidly, destroying the ground around him and even uprooting some of the vines and trees around. When he reaches his full power, Hinata and Haku were even blown away, with all of the vines that had been recently made and many of the trees in the surrounding forest, as well as one other party of people who only just arrived there. "Much better," Baku says, an evil grin rising up on his face, "but if you'd be so kind, my sword is a ways back, and to make everything interesting it would be best if I had my sword." "Go ahead," QB says impatiently, "get your sword and let's fight already." Baku turns and runs the way his sword is, with QB leisurely walking the way he went. He didn't get far before Baku was back with his sword on his back. They both smirk and then disappear. When they reappear, the sound of metal on metal rings throughout the forest. Two swords battled for dominance. One a huge sword much like Zabu's, the other had 3 blades, 2 were spaces a few inches from the other one and shorter than it. All the blades were sharp on both ends. The outsides had a point facing towards the middle one, and the middle was just pointed. Even with 3 different blades, the sword was no more than 5 inches thicker than a normal katana. "Not bad, you can keep up to my speed," Baku says before disappearing again, followed by QB. Their swords clash again, only this time QB withdraws his sword slightly and then gets Baku's sword's blade in between 2 of his. Baku curses. Knowing what would happen, Baku quickly pulls his sword down till it was out of the vise and disappears. The sickly sound of bones meeting metal, cracking and tearing, fills the air, followed by laughter. Bones come out of QB's everywhere but his arms and the insides of his legs, making it nearly impossible to make an attack. "Did you really think I'd be so stupid, Baku?" QB asks. "I can use everyone's blood limit, Shichibi, Hachibi, and mine, thanks to this host," he explains. His eyes develop 4 comma marks. "And you can amplify to whatever power you want." Baku more or less states, then asks, "This will be very interesting. But remember, if you get hit by me, it's all over." QB says, starting to laugh again. He turns around and at Baku, who blocks with his sword, but then he punches Baku, who is forced to dodge. "Good, you at least listen to me. I don't want the fight to be over so soon." Baku quickly runs forward, a kick ready to hit QB, who stands still. Baku turns around, the kick not making contact, sword ready to S through QB, but another sword is already in the way, ready to trap the blade and break it, so Baku withdraws his sword, then barely dodges the backward roundhouse kick that was aimed to his gut. Baku growls before disappearing. When he reappears, both his and QB's swords meet. They disappear from everyone else's view, again reappearing again, swords clashed. This happens a dozen before QB, when they reappear once, lands a kick, which swipes out Baku's legs, his sword falling beside him. "Well, that was less entertaining than I thought it would be," QB states in an almost disappointed manner. "Oh well, he adds, pulling out 2K from his pants pockets. They both light on fire as he throws them at Baku's fallen B. A scream echoes through the forest. The flames start to spread across Baku's bi, it slowly starts to rise up. You can't defeat a demon of my power so easily, Baku says, his voice flickering. He picks up his sword and stands, spreading his legs, more or less so that he can balance easier. He brings his sword across his bi and then smirks devilishly. His bi starts to morph, his skin breaks off reviling red almost scale-like substance underneath, his sword starts to forming on and in between his knuckles are small spikes about 2.5 inches long, and when he closes his hand one more spike for each finger enclosed in the fist is made visible at the bottom of it. To top off the transformation, a single tail was now lifelessly laying on the ground, made of the same material as Baku's new skin. So you finally blessed me with a look at your true form, Kyuubi says, a slight smirk in place. Let's see what it can do, shall we? Kyuubi running at Baku, his sword coming in for a diagonal S on the side. That's arm is not functional. A split second before the sword would hit, Baku's left arm grabs the sword. Kyuubi, you fool, you do not stand a chance. Baku mocks, his other hand closes in a fist and goes to strike Kyuubi. A glowing ball stops its advance, but Kyuubi still goes flying back. Forgotten about my tail already. Kyuubi coughs out a bit of bi. I won't make that mistake again, he says, slowly standing up. He then starts to stretch out his muscles. Okay, then you care for the first move? He asks, smirking, two more coma marks appearing in each eye. Hiding behind you Sharingan won't help you that much, Baku informs him. He charges Kyuubi, right hand ready to punch. A swirling orb stops its advancement and then his other hand. Baku brings his tail to sweep out his legs, but Kyuubi blocks with a foot. Baku starts to move backwards slightly. Baku ducks under the two Razingans and quickly punches out, but the sheathed sword on Kyuubi's waist is pulled out by one of his hands, that retracted back to his bi and the attack blocked. Baku jumps away knowing not to get hit. He then vanishes. He reappears following a grunt of pain, his fist in Kyuubi's gut. Withdrawing his hand, he knees Kyuubi's back, hitting right on the spine. Baku's tail sweeps out Kyuubi's legs, making him fall face first into the ground. Told you, Kyuubi, Baku says. It's all over now. The spikes are coated with poison. No ordinary poison, mind you, he adds, smirking. Kyuubi struggles to stand up, reaching into his pocket and pulling out the ring Hachibi gave Naruto. Not yet, Baku, he says, slipping on the ring. He draws out his sword and places it across his bi, held up by his right hand, his left hovering just below the tip, legs spread for balance. Hachibi's last gift, I shall use it to destroy you. Baku smiles in an intrigued way. And how are you going to do that? He questions, nor really caring. Watch and see. Kyuubi's sword starts to his skin off to reveal a hard red substance, that's quickly coated over with a black substance that almost looks like bone. From his back two wings form, black and as large than his bi. Underneath his arms started sprouting, two more arms, one on each side of his bi, the same color as the rest of his bi. His C become more defined and fangs get larger. Interesting, I didn't know any of the Biju knew how to go demon form, Baku says, quietly waiting for him to talk or move or do something. Kyuubi disappears, his hand blocked by Baku's fist, getting a smirk from Kyuubi. His hand had no puncture wounds. Kyuubi quickly closed his hand and Baku fell limp. I like this, Shichibi, Kimimaro, thanks, now I can't be hurt. Kyuubi yells, falling into laughter. Very interesting, Baku says, standing nearly 6 feet behind Kyuubi. So your bi is covered in bone, he speculates, cracking his N. This will be more fun than I thought. It's good you realized that. Your clone didn't and he asks for it, Kyuubi responds, moving one of his hands over the cone. He launches 4 spikes from his fingers on top of the clone, which puffs away. Anyways, let's get on with this, Baku. Meanwhile, Haku-chan. Hinata says desperately, said person laying on the ground, her head resting in Hinata's lap. Haku-chan, wake up. Light moaning started to come from Haku. Hinata-chan. Haku says, slowly opening her eyes. What happened? She questions father. Kyuubi, his power made us go flying, Hinata says, looking a little mad and sad at the same time. Haku's hand gently strokes Hinata's hair. It's okay, Tufts two are insanely powerful, Haku says, trying to comfort Hinata. Haku slowly rises up and draws Hinata into a long K. Let's go find them, Hinata says after they were finished K. I want to at least be there when he wins so we can protect him. She adds in utmost confidence that Naruto, Kyuubi would defeat Baku. Haku nods and they both stand up, Hinata leaning on Haku for support. Together they walk back to the place they felt the 2 huge chakra sources. They reach there as Kyuubi is transforming. What just happened? Hinata asks, looking on in awe at the two fighters clearly not in human form, nor animal. Maybe it's their demon form. Haku offers up. They were not taught about it, but they knew from before. The Biju had animal form, human too obviously, but they're demonic. Shouldn't they have a demonic form to complete everything? They ask no further questions but cuddle together and watch the battle unfold, knowing if they went in there they'd just be a burden. With the three other people. I've had enough of this, I am going back to my village, Orochimaru says, starting to walk away only to be stoked by the Akatsuki. I don't think so, the unknown one says, walking into his path. You know our plan, we cannot let you live unless you help us. Orochimaru's eyes narrow, are aware of who I am. On the return his heart was in the Akatsuki member's hand. Orochimaru falls lifelessly to the ground. Pathetic fool, hisses a girl's voice from the unknown Akatsuki. Sasori looks up at her, him in amusement. Let's just get back there, she says in the same voice, walking away. And yes, I am a girl. Back at the fight, Baku runs a Kyuubi, his fists clenched, the spikes on him glowing, in an attempt to strike and penetrate Kyuubi's unprotected back, but with this sickening crack, Kyuubi's bottom arms flip around and grab Baku's wrist. Spikes emerge from Kyuubi's spine, between his wings, either log which used to be Baku. The spike retreats into Kyuubi's back and he starts to look around, his eyes getting as many coma marks as possible. You can't hide forever, Baku, Kyuubi mocks, just come out and he adds with a smirk. He jumps to the left, dodge the person erupting from the ground. The person turns into a pillar of earth. Another pillar rises to the left of him. They soon surround him completely. 10 people pop up from the ground and attack Kyuubi, their fists clenched and glowing. Baku's clones unleash a barrage of attacks, all hitting Kyuubi full on but none doing any damage, which only makes Kyuubi smirk more. He ascends his arms and bone emerges from the sides, forming into a razor-sharp edge. Kyuubi begins to twirl, going after every clone and eliminating them one by one. Damn stronger armors than I thought, Baku says, standing on top of the earth pillars. One more clone rises out of each, making 10 Bakus in total. The jump down the pillars, rocketing towards Kyuubi, glowing fists ahead of them. Kyuubi surrounds himself with his wings. As he does this, they start to glow. All of the Bakus impact onto Kyuubi's wings, breaking the clone's spikes, making them disappear in the process. The real Baku plants his feet on Kyuubi's wings and uses his tail to sneak underneath them. Baku's tail wraps around Kyuubi's legs and pulls them out, making Kyuubi fall to the ground back first, but his twisted arms save him from the fall. Opening his wings, Kyuubi sends Baku flying back into one of his pillars, toppling it. Kyuubi follows after him, only to get struck in the end with enough force to throw him off balance. Baku had appeared in front of him, and he was currently charging upper attack. His spikes were glowing brighter than before. He throws out his punch, connecting with Kyuubi and shattering the bones and sending him back into another pillar. So I've found the extent of your armor, have I? Baku states calmly, walking to where Kyuubi stopped, chuckling a little. The pillars fall back into the ground as if nothing ever happened. As Baku reaches where Kyuubi should be, he finds no one. He starts to look around, wondering where Kyuubi will attack from. Well, maybe, or maybe I can change it to get even stronger. Kyuubi says in a mocking voice. Only way to find out is, he trails off, Rasengan springing to life in his two forward arms. His bottom arms flip around and they to form Rasengans. Baku smirks. You haven't had time to incorporate your moves into your demon form. He asks, not wait for a response. He adds, that's sad. He closes his fists and brings up his arms. His whole hand starts to glow, then a beam from each of them fires off and Baku follow close behind, smirk still intact. So what? It doesn't reduce the power any, Kyuubi responds, smirking also, trying to end things so soon. Baku, scared, he follows Baku's example and charges towards him. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.